time to talk about the coolest part of all of this, which is polymorphism. One of my favorite words in programming, which Eclipse thinks is misspelled. Polymorphism is not correct. Okay, this is right. Polymorphism. Yeah, okay. Eclipse is wrong in this case. So polymorphism, it means, okay, so the poly part is the Latin root for many, and then morph, I guess, is to change. So this is such a good word. It means that you can change the behavior, and we already saw how you could do that with the two-string method. I'm going to show you a couple of more examples. I really love this word. My other favorite word in programming is encapsulation. Like I was telling you guys about this before, encapsulation is where you keep just the business of the class within itself. It's kind of like a capsule of information and of functionality. All right, so let's talk about polymorphism in terms of an example, and I think I'm going to make some countries. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to make some countries. I'm going to make a country that's going to be the parent class. This parent class country extends object, but I don't have to specifically say that because Java assumes it. But if you wanted to have a look in here, you could see if I take this out, see, it still extends from object, and country has all of these things that it inherits from object. You might understand what those are later. That will be Java 2, I guess. So let's put some countries in here. I'm gonna make like a Serbia. I'm gonna try and see these things together. Crazy. Okay. Also going to need something to run them. I'll put that over there. Oh, now Serbia's there, the United Nations down there. Okay, yeah, that'll do. Okay, we've got Serbia. I'm actually going to make an Ireland. It's St. Patrick's Day today. I'm here programming with you guys instead of being drunk. Hopefully I'll live a bit longer for that. Oh, yes. All right, that's what I'm talking about. Now we have Serbia, Ireland, and we have the United Nations. I'm going to put the main method in here. And then country, this is the parent. So first thing I have to do is actually make these things connect. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have them all do like the dance, their national dance. But first, I'm just going to get something running here. I don't like too much code without testing it. You're dancing. I'm going to make a Serbia. And then I'll make the Serbians dance and run it. Okay, so we're dancing, but I happen to know that in Serbia, you all do this dance called the cuckoo, the coco. Coco dancing, I think it is, or colo. Colo. Ooh, UNESCO. See, this is very relevant. Okay, things we're learning. The colo, it's a sort of a circle dance that they do in Serbia. Now I'm going to override the dance method of country. So I'm going to make this stuff all match perfectly. Need to have the same stuff here so that it can override it. But when I'm Serbian, we're colo dancing. Okay, we're on the United Nations over here, and now Serbia is Kolo dancing. And then if I wanted to do that for Ireland, so let's make it Ireland. Ooh, wow, this is the era. Nope. I swear I haven't been drinking much. Okay, we're drunkenly dancing a jig just today. I'm not playing into the stereotype, but it is St. Patrick's Day today. March 17th, you can't see on my screen there. Okay, so this is an example of method overriding. I'm going to see if I can do something like get the national city. Sorry, get the capital city, which will be a string. And that will return this, which doesn't exist yet. Oh no, I don't think it, but I'm going to auto create that. Someday. I also could have done this the other way around. I'm going to show you what that's like, because this is the pro way of doing it. So say I wrote in here that I wanted that to be my member variable. I would go in here to source and then generate getters and setters. A lot of the time when you're making these things, you want this stuff. So pop that in there, and then I got my getter. Okay, so let's see if we can get the capital city of Serbia. And we're going to print that out. Okay, so it's null because it hasn't been set to anything here. Should I show you what's... Oh, this is kind of the wrong way to do it. But you might think that you could override the member variables like this. So, like the method, will this override that? Am I going to get Belgrade? Because we're Serbia. We're Serbia. Serbia has a capital city, Belgrade. Okay, we still get null. And the reason for that is it's just always going to return the one here. So, by the way, null means empty. So that you can just trust me that it's using this value, you see. So what we would really want to do is we want to initialize this value depending on which country we're in. And we can do that using the constructor. So I am going to actually put this intelligence into somewhere. Serbia. So when anyone makes a Serbia, so they would use the new keyword. As soon as you do new, it's going to come up here to this constructor. I want to call a constructor that's in country. Well, hey, I'm going to show you how to do this automatically. Whee! Okay, did you get that? So I didn't have to type stuff out. I just made a constructor that takes this field as a parameter. And it's setting it all up for me. Now this is the reason we're here to talk about this. I'll just finish the thought and come back to it. So when I'm Serbia, I want to call this constructor country, and I'm going to do that using super. Okay, so what super does is it calls. So what I was doing there was put that control key, and then it will jump over to the constructor. So what's this saying is that when it's calling super, it's calling this country constructor. And so then Belgrade is going into here as a parameter, and then it's setting the capital city like that. Okay, so do we think we'll get Serbia now? Ooh, okay, All right, so what it's telling me here is that there's no default constructor. So what happens is, if you don't put a constructor like this in here, your Java is going to assume, sorry, why is this one red? Oh, because of the constructor. So if you have a class, Java automatically puts this in there. Of course, you can't see it, but it exists. That's called the default constructor. And that's what Java uses to make things if you don't say there's any constructor. See, you would be doing a lot of useless typing if you had to do this, but it does exist, so you can imagine that it's there. And then when you make another constructor, it says, it thinks this is the main one, but Ireland here is actually calling super. Okay, so what's happening here is Ireland is calling super. And see, when I made this constructor, so this is another thing that you don't need to include. This call is going to happen automatically anyway. What it means is that when you use a constructor, it's going to automatically call the parent class's constructor. And the reason this is red is because now I don't have a default constructor in country. Because I've started being smart and being like, okay, thanks Java for that free default constructor, but I'm going to make my own constructors. And when you start doing that, then you do not have a default constructor anymore. So the way to fix this is I have to add back in the default constructor for country. And now Ireland over here is happy because super with no parameters is going to call the default constructor country here. Okay, I don't actually want to do that. What I'm going to do with Ireland is I'm going to super Dublin. So that was just a little segue. I'm glad we went down that path because, you know, these things have to be explained. No. Okay, so let's see if Serbia has its correct capital city now. Belgrade. Okay, I'm going to make this a wee bit better. The capital is... Okay, the capital is Belgrade. And then let's see if we can do that for Ireland. The capital city of Dublin is Dublin. So I'm going to talk through that one more time. Okay, so when we say new Ireland, it goes in here and then it sees the super call. So then it's going to call the super class's constructor, which is the one that matches. It has to have a string in there. So it calls this constructor. This constructor will set up capital city to be Dublin. And then when you use this getter, it gives you back Dublin. Okay, that's a little bit about constructors. I'm actually going to keep harping on about constructors a bit more. Okay, so as well as having super, we also have the idea of this. Can I make you guys bigger? Okay, Goldie and Kate, they are, come here Goldie and Kate, I want to make you all's biggers. Okay, they are related. This is Goldie Hawn and Kate Hudson. And so I've made it in here so we have a couple of constructors for Kate. She might change her hair. Goldie usually has the usual same hair all the time. So she just has a regular old default constructor. And the reason that I put this in here is I want to show you how like they're kind of calling each other. So let's just make a new Kate. Okay, so let's see. What would you expect to happen now? So I want you to try and look at this and see what it's going to print out. Okay, so it's going to print out not only Kate default constructor, but also Goldie default constructor. So remember that I was saying that it automatically does that without you saying it. That's what's happening. So, and you'll notice that it's calling Goldie first. It's calling Goldie's constructor first, and then it's calling Kate. If you wanted to try to make it do it the other way around, then we get a bit unhappy, like that. Okay, so that's the basic way. And then there's this other thing that you can use along with super. You can, if you want to call a constructor from another constructor from within the class itself, you would use the this keyword, like that. Now I'm going to call this other constructor here, and curly hair, by default. So there, okay, so when I run this, see, it's doing Goldie first, then it's doing Kate, hair constructor, because it's going to go into this curly, and this curly is going to call this constructor, and then it's going to do that one, and then it's doing Kate default constructor. Is that super confusing? Okay, I'm just going to do it the other way around just to keep going on and on about it. So now I want to show you the difference between these two things. So now we're making a new Kate Hudson, and I'm actually going to put in straight hair today. Straight hair. Okay, Goldie default constructor, Kate hair constructor, because we're coming down here. Now if I wanted to specifically call this one, say I had some initialization to do, that's where I would use this in real life. Okay, so now it's also calling the default constructor. Alright, so we talked about this, and we also talked about super, and those are keywords that you use to call constructors. They're a little different to methods, even though a lot of the time they look very like methods. Now, I'm going to show you kind of why you might be using these things, like, I'm going to make a new country actually. I'm going to make Brazil. Brazil! And so if I wanted to specify without typing it what its parent class or superclass is, I can do it here as well. I want it to be country. Country. Thank you. Okay, and then my Brazil is just going to go straight up like that. Okay, Brazil, yes, we do want the, gimme. Yeah, give me the default constructor. Not like that, like this. Ooh, yeah. Okay, capital city. Oh dear, I didn't check how you spell that. Shen. Okay. I'm just going to abbreviate it because just in case I'm getting it wrong. Okay, Brazil. So, you know, we have our countries, and then you would probably not just be doing overriding this dance method, which I'm going to do just because we're going to use it in a second. You would probably have your different subclasses have different functions. And so that's like you have the basic functionality of a country, which is not very much here, and then you add functionality to the children or the subclasses, and that's kind of their purpose. So, you know, Ireland, we would have shelter from rain. And then I'm going to show you sort of like, oh, let's see, Brazil with the hierarchy. So, see, country has these methods and Brazil has these methods. And of course, if I look at Ireland, I'm not going to have carnival in there. I'm going to have shelter from rain. So this is like showing, I'm trying to show you how you extend something, how you use this extends object or keyword to use the functionality that the parent class already has and then add to it. I was going to do a little bit more with the United Nations to show you like something that you might actually find useful with all of this. And that is that because all of these countries have the same parent, you can add them and treat them as if they were the same type of type country. Ooh. Thank you, Eclipse. Oh, wow, look at that. Oh, Serbia. And I'll put a Brazil. Okay, I've added the countries to my countries array list. Then I'm gonna make them all, I'm gonna make them all dance. See? Okay, get rid of those printouts because they're making it a little confusing. Okay, so we're getting to do all of our, no, don't want to do you. I just want to do one of each. Okay, so what's happening is all of these countries are actually of different types, but because they have a common parent, we're able to do this. Because if you imagine how you would have to do this otherwise, you'd have to call the dance separately on each one, but because they're all of type country and it has a dance method, then we can do the same. We can assume that all countries will at least have the behavior that country has. And that's where the stuff is really used and is useful. Although, see, the thing about inheritance, I'm not really a very big fan of inheritance. I'm definitely a very big fan of composition. And the reason for that is composition is definitely a lot more flexible. So composition, you would have probably more classes in that case, but you would have sort of like a class within a class that gave it a sort of an ability, like a magic power, and it exists within it. And then when that class needs to do something, it delegates to the class inside. As opposed to inheritance, when you make these hierarchies, they tend to be quite rigid, and you never really know with software where you're going when you're building things. So yeah, it can be kind of tough to change. And I actually don't use inheritance really very much after having you guys spend an hour on it. But you know, it's stuff how you have to know this stuff. Next, we're going to do a bit more on composition in the next lesson. But before that, I've got a little exercise. Yes, okay, so I finally got the UML, there was a bad word going to come out in there. I got that UML thing to work and I made this diagram. Okay, so this is your next exercise. It's in the doc directory and it's called doctors. No pun intended there. And this is UML that I would like you guys to turn into code. Good luck. See you next lesson. Bye.